Welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk about rich artists and poor artists, and perhaps it reminds you of the book Rich Dad and Poor Dad. It's a really good book if you are interested in learning English. If you're not native to English, it's a good book to read. Also to learn something about management, well, perhaps not on a professional level. It's a very simple book. And if you are struggling to write about yourself, your life, your art, like your resume, your bio on your website, then go ahead and read this book because you might be inspired how someone could write about a very simple story of a boy at 8 years old or something, and into like a whole book of several hundreds of pages, and just a very interesting way to write about personal experiences. Go ahead and check it out if you wish. I want to talk about it because on the way from Madrid to Alicante, it's a sunny beach city in the Mediterranean Sea. I was just going through my YouTube channel and I saw this video by Jubilee. I don't know if I have pronounced this right. And it's called Millionaires versus Minimum Wage. Did you earn your money? Basically, they invited 6 people. 3 were millionaires and 3 were minimum wage workers. And they were invited to talk about their attitudes towards money, how did they make the money, how did they spend the money, and all these different perspectives, also like social stigmas, how other people perceive people with money or people with less resources. And I found it really amusing, really interesting, because I have lived a very poor life, minimum wage or below. I would say like the bottom 10% of the world in terms of standards of living. And then today, I think I'm living perhaps top 10%. And I'm very grateful to have seen different side of the society and lived different lives. And I'm also grateful that I have the opportunity to live a good life, and I want to share some of my stories with you perhaps later. Personally, I'm very interested in the social mobility. It's one of the things that I always spend time to look into, and especially social mobility of an artist. Like how poor artists could become rich, or rich become poor, or I mean, it usually goes both ways just for the sake of, not to discriminate against why not rich can become poor. I mean, it can. I'm just saying that the whole social mobility thing of artists is very interesting. And in the video, they were talking about is that mindset that determines if you can become rich or poor, because the millionaires they were invited in this video, they were self-made. They earned their money by working really hard. And I think mindset is definitely number 1 or maybe top 3 factors that how a poor kid or how a minimum wage worker could become a millionaire. But I think there are other factors in the equation, like family. Obviously, if you're born in a very well-off family, things is getting easier for you, and you could get some help from your direct family members. And also talent, perhaps like ability to earn money as an artist, like you have the solid skills, technique, and then after that you are able to manage your skills and monetize your skills, which is a talent too. And also to keep the money, to invest the money, to manage and file your personal taxes, and all the things you need to do to maintain your stable financial life. This is also a part of the talent. It's not just a talent as a painter, but it's like an overall holistic way of looking at talent. At least this is how I perceive. And if you look at the artists around the world and look at artists around you, I think you might come to the same conclusion that most of the times, only maybe less than 1% of the artists in the world are super rich. Like Ron English, Damien Hirst, Kaus, you can only name that many. Maybe like after 10 artists, like you run out of artists because there are not so many. And if you look really poor artists, like the ones who are struggling to put roof over their head, to provide their family with food, it's maybe just 1% too. I mean, I don't know so many people who are struggling like to maintain their basic needs. Usually they struggle to perhaps to rent a studio or to buy a house. I would call them like thriving rather than struggling, like struggling to thrive, not struggling to survive, right? If you look at the artists in the world, maybe just a very minimum few, they are like the top and the very few are in the bottom. Majority, maybe 90% or 95% of the artists in the world were just living a normal life, like like they are getting by, they are trying to make the ends meet, and they are selling one day, they are struggling another day. And we're just normal people living normal lives. And perhaps you're the middle class or you're a little bit like working class. But if you look at the artists, no matter if you're rich, you're poor, I think more or less we are in the middle. So even someone is earning twice as what you earn, but he's not the next Damien Hirst either. It's only 1% who has the 90% of the resources. The rest of us were like more or less the same. So don't be so jealous, or don't be so like, don't blame yourself for not being able to make 200,000 last year. It's okay, because most of us are like, are just getting by and trying to, do better for the future, which is fair enough. And I think that there are a lot of factors that who made us this way, like birth is definitely number one, and the rest are like our social systems, like taxes and all this welfare things, that like the aid from the government, that the system is making us not super rich and not super poor. It's just making us living a normal life. When we think about rich artists, how did they become rich? And I think they did it through the few things like hardworking, and they were able to monetize their art. They make a lot of art, maybe good art, maybe good enough art, at least to be sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars. And they are very social, so they fit very well in a social environment, networking events. They manage money very well, because otherwise they won't be able to keep the money for long. So they have to learn how to manage money and invest the money like a real business entrepreneur. And they have to wear several hats, like artist, curator, entrepreneur. So you can't be just doing one thing in your life, like painting, and expect to be the number one in the world or top one in the world. No, you have to have different skills to fulfill different kind of stages of your career to be able to reach the top of what you can do. And the poor artists, normally from my experience, they are poor because they are having addictions, and they have health issues, and in a lot of countries that there's not free medication, free like medical care, so you have to pay for yourself, and that's very stressful, and it can really make someone bankrupt and face very harsh situations. And some family problems, perhaps you need to support your family and your remote family members, and you can face some also difficult situations with this issue. From what I see, that rich or poor artists, they can share similar qualities. As you can see in the video from Jubilee, you can see that Tim is a minimum wage worker, but he's extremely knowledgeable, and he talks well, and he had everything that he could to make it a millionaire, but he didn't, because he chose to do a social work, and he chose a life living very humble, very modest. And you see the millionaires, they didn't go to college. The guy worked as a real estate agent and worked very hard from 18 to 22 to get his first bucket of gold, and then after that he started investing, and then his equity grew and grew over time, and after maybe a decade he could say that he's a millionaire. It's like rich or poor is not something fixed, and it doesn't determine who you are or what kind of artist you are, or if you're a good enough artist or if you're a professional artist. The money you make is just a temporary thing. Like if you have a health issue, you can become poor for several years, but through hard work you can become rich again. Money is like fluid. It is like an energy. It runs over you, it goes in, it goes out, and nothing is permanent, especially money today. And you can really become wealthy in a fairly short amount of time by selling your art online, by scaling your art business, and you can also lose everything overnight if you don't play according to the rules. Like a Chinese artist, she did not pay taxes over several millions of dollars, and she got into trouble, she's penalized, and she lost everything, which is fair enough. She broke the rule, and it's like this. But it's very unstable. Like it's not something that you expect to be holding on for such a long time. As you can see, money comes, money goes, nothing's permanent. It's not about how much money you have now, you will have, or you have had. It's a lot to do with the ability that you have to be able to always get back on your feet, to be able to sustain yourself over a period of time, not to have the amount of money coming and then wasting everything and then going to poor again. Obviously, money plays a very important role in our lives, but we shouldn't look at money in a way that defines what class of artist that you are. And we don't choose to be poor, we don't choose to be rich. A lot of times it's about the opportunities that are presented to you, and not everybody got the same opportunities. And some are lucky, some are fortunate, some are just born at the right place at the right time. We don't know, so don't ever let money define you. And again, in art, rich is not about money. There are many other ways that you can be accepted as a rich artist without making that money. For example, if you're from the top 10 art schools in the world, and then yeah, you can be accepted although you are broke, you are still having that social status. If social status is the thing you are looking for, you don't have to achieve it through money. You can have a really fancy family name, a really high degree, or something exceptional like award-winning artists that doesn't have to have a lot of money to get the respect and social status you need. But trust me, after all, I found that I took the education route. I had 5 degrees. I stayed in university for 8 years to get them, and I wanted to go up the social mobility ladder. But after all, I found that the easiest way to climb that ladder is still through making more money. So I hope you will achieve whatever you want to achieve, and if making money is what you want to achieve, don't be ashamed. Although that money is a taboo in the world of art, a lot of people say if you make good money, you're not a pure artist, you're not a great artist. Great artists die starving. Don't believe them. You can make the money, enjoy life, and it will not change who you are. So that's all for today. I don't know what I've said about money and everything. I hope you have enjoyed this. If you did, give a thumb up. Thank you very much, and best of luck to earn a lot of money in the next upcoming years. Okay, or days or months. Okay, that's all what I want to say. Thank you. See you in the next video.